Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to show you a surprisingly easy way to make any motion look better in Premiere Pro. So no plugins, no presets, just vanilla Premiere Pro. But before we dive into Premiere though, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button because the algorithm is still a bitch. Alright, so before we talk about this method, I think it's important that we first define what I mean by motion in Premiere. So just to be clear, I'm not talking about complex animations or complex 3D effects. You want to use After Effects for that. I'm talking about basic motion in Premiere, something like this. Just a red color mat coming in from left to right. Now normally how we would do this is we would just select the clip, add 2 keyframes on position and or scale if you want to be zooming in and out, and then you have basic motion. You probably already know about this. It's one of the first things you learn when you start to work with Premiere. So we mostly use this when we're in Premiere, we're looking at our B-roll sequences and we're like, okay, this shot could have been spiced up just a little bit if it was zooming in and out or moving a little bit from left to right. It's usually just to add that little subtle motion. So a good example of that would be these 2 shots right here. This is part of a B-roll sequence that I created a little while back, just for myself. I'm not affiliated with the brand that's on the coffee cup there. But what happens is, I had this shot of me holding the coffee cup and then I had another shot of me dropping the coffee cup into my coffee machine. And just to make sure that those 2 were kind of in the same frame, I used a little digital zoom in effect. So right here at the end of this clip, I'm zooming in, making sure that it's in the center of the frame, and then it cuts to the next clip and it starts to zoom out again. Now if you look at that in full speed, you can see the effect kind of works, but you don't necessarily need to be an expert to see that the zoom in that is done here was put in post. It wasn't done with an actual camera zooming in and out. You can quite obviously see that. All right, so that is a problem, right? Because these zoom in and slide effects, they all kind of look jittery and weird if you do it this way. This way is very easy, but it doesn't look as good. So what most people will resort to is online free preset packs. These preset packs usually add a lot of different effects and they make sure that your zoom in and slides kind of have this motion blur going on and everything looks better and looks cooler. Now these preset packs, I've used them myself too. They're very awesome, but I have 3 major problems with them. 1, you're not really learning anything. You're usually just putting a preset on your footage and you have no clue what kind of effects are on there. The second thing is they're kind of complicated. At least they're more complicated than this method where you just need to add 2 keyframes. You're usually cutting on one clip, then cutting on another clip, and you have to sort of merge them together. And even though these creators do their absolute best to make them as easy as possible, they're always going to be more complicated than just simply adding 2 keyframes on position or scale like we just did. Third major problem, and this might be the most annoying one, they're not just complicated for you as a creator, they're complicated for your computer. So if you're using these presets, your computer is going to be slow, you're going to have to pre-render everything, and it's just going to suck. So these presets, even though they were usually made with the best intentions, and shout out to all the creators that offer these presets for free, you guys are lifesavers. But because they're complicated for you and especially for your computer, I want to offer an alternative method that doesn't require any presets or any plugins. All right, so let's get on with the new way because that's why you clicked this video. So the new way is going to result in something looking like this. So as you can see, it's the same motion as before, but this time there's something a little bit different about it. So this is the first one, and then this is the second one. You can probably already guess by now, it all has to do with motion blur. So if you wave at yourself, you're not only gonna look like a complete retard, you're also gonna see these blurry lines that come from your hand when you're moving at a high speed. Right now you're seeing that in camera because I am applying the 180-degree rule, but you'll also see that in real life with your own eyes. So if we apply motion blur like this to our motion in our videos, every motion is going to look better, not just to you, the video expert, but to anyone that is human, because our human eyes and our brain are very used to this kind of motion blur. So using this kind of motion blur in your videos is going to make everything look way better. Let's get on to how to apply this kind of motion blur. All right, so we're gonna apply it to our first clip here. First of all, let's remove these old 2 keyframes because we don't need them. Yes, I wanna remove all of them. First things first, you're gonna go to your effects panel, go to the search bar and type in transform. You're gonna find a couple of things here. First of all, you're gonna find a folder that's called transform. You can just ignore that. Under the folder distort, you have 2 transforms. I tried both of them. They both do the same thing. I don't really know why there's 2 of them, but they seem to be doing the same thing. So just pick the top one, put it on your clip, And what you'll notice is that once you're in the effects controls panel here, so you select your clip and you come up to effect controls, you'll see that there's a new little column called transform. And as you can see, it also has a position and a scale parameter. Just a little side note, scale height and scale width are for some reason separated under transform as opposed to the regular motion where it's just one parameter. Essentially what this means is that you can now individually control the width and the height of a clip. But as long as you change them in parallel, it will just scale like it normally would. So don't worry about that. In this case, we're just gonna use position. So we're gonna do exactly the same thing as what we're used to. We're gonna go to the position, hit the little stopwatch there. We automatically created a keyframe for the color matte to be fully in the frame. We obviously want it to end there, so we create another keyframe where it's completely out of the frame, just like that. And obviously we can just move them closer together if we want everything to be a little bit faster or a little bit slower. So if you play this back, you'll see that it still looks exactly the same as it did before. But here is where the magic happens. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna scroll down here and you're gonna see a little sentence, use composition's shutter angle. You're gonna uncheck that, and then under shutter angle, you're gonna change it from 0 to 180. Boom. Now if we look at the clip, it has that nice blurry line as if it's an actual, I don't know, red color matte flying into the frame. And again, we don't really have time to go into too much detail because I don't want to bore you with all the technical stuff, but essentially what we've done is we've unchecked this box, meaning that we've told the transform effect to not listen to the composition's shutter angle, so to the clip's shutter angle, but we've told it to try to, digitally mimic a 180-degree shutter angle. So essentially what that's doing is it tries to digitally mimic the motion blur that you get when you shoot at a shutter speed that is double your frame rate. And again, shooting at a shutter speed that is double your frame rate tries to mimic the motion blur that we see in real life. So essentially, we're trying to digitally mimic motion blur that our human eye see. So again, this is not just going to look more natural to you, the video expert, but also to your clients who may have never worked with video. They're going to see that motion blur and be like, hey, that's familiar to me because that's the motion blur they see their entire lives. Now let's take a look at the little zoom in effect that I showed you before. Again, this is what it looked like. Zooming in, zooming out. This is what it looks like with that same transform effect applied with the 180 shutter angle. As you can see, the difference is very tiny, very little, but definitely noticeable, not just if you know video, but for everyone. And I will show you frame by frame why that is. So as soon as I start to zoom in here digitally, that starts right around here, you can see already on the first frame that my finger here, I'm pointing with my finger, I need to use my mouse, that my finger here gets a little blurry. And then the next frame it gets even more blurry, and then only in the center, the O and the F on the cup here are kind of sharp. The rest of around it kind of gets blurry. And the same goes when I start zooming out here. You can see my hand and the coffee machine kind of get blurry. As soon as I'm done zooming out, everything gets sharp again. And this is in big contrast to the first one we made, because if we look at that one frame by frame, you'll see that the only thing that's happening is that it's just digitally bringing everything closer. So it's just enlarging the frame and then shrinking down the frame. And again, that's why it looks so jittery and a little digital versus quite a natural flowing motion. All right, I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you can apply this in your videos because your videos are all going to look way better. And I hope that you'll keep creating and keep being creative and keep learning because this industry is really freaking awesome. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like button because of the algorithm. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.